Napoli is the regional capital of Campania and the third largest city of Italy after Rome and Milan. As the third largest city in Italy, they should have a very good football team, right? Not really. Società Sportiva Calcio Napoli is an Italian professional football club based in the city of Napoli that plays in Serie A, the top flight of Italian football. In its history, they won 3 Serie A titles, 6 Coppa Italia, 2 Supercoppa Italiana and 1 UEFA Cup. The club was formed in 1926 as Associazione Calcio Napoli, following the merger of US Internazionale Napoli and Naples Football Club. They saw relatively little success in its early years, winning their first major trophy in 1962, Coppa Italia. Inter Napoli were immediately enrolled in the top-flight Prima Divisione, Lega Sud Championship, as both Internazionale Napoli and Naples FC competed in that division pre-merger. Since the end of World War I, both clubs had lost dominance in the region to the likes of Puteolana and Savoia. Even with the combined strength, Savoia still proved to be the top team in southern Italy. Napoli was readmitted to Serie A's forerunner, the Divisione Nazionale, by the Italian Football Federation and began to improve thanks in part to Paraguayan-born Attila Saiustro, who was the first legend to the fans. He was a capable goalscorer and eventually set the all-time goalscoring record for Napoli, which was later surpassed by players like Diego Maradona and Marek Hamšík. Jumping through time, we reached the 1964 season when the club changed their name to Società Sportiva Calcio Napoli. They began to rise up again, gaining promotion in 1964-65. Under the management of former player Bruno Pessaola, they won the Coppa delle Alpi and were back among the elite in Serie A with consistent top 5 finishes. Napoli came very close to winning the league title in 1967-68, finishing just behind Milan in second place. Some of the most popular players from this period were Dino Zoff, José Altafini, Omar Sivori, and midfielder Antonio Giuliano. Giuliano would eventually break the appearance records, which still stands today. The trend of the team performing well in the league continued in the 1970s with third-place finishes in the 1970-71 and 1973-74 seasons. This gained them qualification to the early UEFA Cup competition. The club won their second Coppa Italia trophy in 1975-76, eliminating Milan and Fiorentina before beating rivals Hellas Verona 4-0 in the final. This helped the team qualify to the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup for the 1976-77 season, where they reached the semi-finals, losing 2-1 on aggregate to Anderlecht. Napoli broke the world transfer record fee after acquiring Diego Armando Maradona in a €12 million deal from Barcelona on 30th of June 1984. The squad at the time was gradually rebuilt, with the likes of Ciro Ferrara, Salvatore Bani, and Fernando de Napoli filling the ranks. The build-up was gradual, but the 1986-87 season was the landmark in Napoli's history, becoming just the third Italian team to win the double after securing the Serie A title by 3 points and then beating Atalanta 4-0 to leave the Coppa Italia. As no mainland southern Italian team had ever won the league title before, this turned Maradona into a cultural, social and borderline religious icon for Neapolitans. This cultural phenomenon is still seen nowadays throughout the city, and it's clear that the Argentinian meant the world to the fans. However, they needed the love for Maradona, as after adding the second league title in the 1989-1990 season and after winning the UEFA Cup in 1988-89, the club collapsed. Of course, it took decades, but gradually, the club ended up being relegated and eventually bankrupt. To secure football in the city, film producer Aurelio De Laurentiis refounded the club under the name Napoli Soccer, as they were not allowed to use their old name until the following season. The Italian Football Federation placed Napoli in Serie C1, where they missed out on promotion after losing 2-1 in the playoffs to the local rivals Avellino in the 2004-2005 season. Despite Napoli playing in a lower division, the fans stood by them and the club retained higher average attendances than most of the Serie A clubs, breaking the Serie C attendance record with 51,000 at one match. Napoli kept pushing and eventually, the elusive league title returned to southern Italy, with the club winning it in the 2022-2023 season. Having the likes of Victor Osimhen and Quicha Kvaratskhelia and being managed by Luciano Spalletti of course helped. In the meantime, Antonio Conte was manager of Tottenham Hotspur, and to be honest, that's all that can be said about his time there. But that's not all that can be said about his career, which contains so many trophies that they could fill 2 cabinets at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. After retiring from playing, Conte worked as an assistant manager for Siena alongside Luigi De Canio in 2005-2006 season. In July 2006, he was appointed as coach of Serie B side Arezzo. After a series of disappointing results, he was sacked in October that year, only to be reinstated in March 2007, as his predecessor, Maurizio Sarri, failed to improve the club that was facing a relegation battle. In December 2007, Conte was appointed by Bari to replace Giuseppe Materazzi for the second half of their campaign. The following season, 2008-2009, Bari were crowned Serie B champions, being promoted to Serie A for the 2009-2010 season, Conte's first major honor as a manager. After rumors of Antonio Conte becoming the new manager of Juventus in 2009, the Italian moved to Atalanta instead. But his stay there turned into a dangerous game, having been escorted by police after a defeat against Napoli, as the fans were furious with their team's performances. Following a brief spell at Siena in 2010, Antonio Conte made the move to Juventus, a move that would tie the Italian manager back to his playing career club. Despite drawing many matches during that season, on 6th of May 2012, Conte led Juventus to their 28th league title with one match remaining by beating Cagliari 2-0. Conte's innovative 3-5-2 formation, which featured wingbacks and two box-to-box midfielders in a three-man midfield, gave more creative freedom to the newly acquired deep-line playmaker Andrea Pirlo, who was key to the club's success that season. Conte's Juventus won the 2012-2013 Serie A title after they accumulated 87 points. Juventus won their third consecutive Serie A title under Conte during the 2013-2014 season, winning the league with a Serie A record of 102 points. That was also the club's 30th league title in case you lost count. And following his huge success at Juventus, Antonio Conte became the Italian national team's manager. However, mixed results led to his resignation after Euro 2016. That in turn led to his appointment as Chelsea manager, a decision which I think the English club will never regret, as Antonio Conte delivered the Premier League title in his first season. After he left Chelsea, Conte won the Serie A title with Inter Milan before being appointed manager of Tottenham, and his stay at Tottenham was chaotic. And that is a contrast compared to his Napoli appointment. The team sits currently first of the table in Serie A, following 22 wins. Of course, this might have changed by the time you watch this video, but with only 3 points separating Napoli and Inter Milan, the situation is tense. As a tactical setup, Antonio Conte prefers the 3-5-2 formation, or in certain cases, a more defensive setup 5-3-2, fielding two wingbacks instead of wingers with two strikers backed by an attacking midfielder in a three-man midfield in front of a three-man defensive line. However, I noticed that at Napoli, Conte ditched the 3-5-2 setup and opted for a balanced 4-3-3 formation. It might be that he's trying to accommodate the available squad and get the most out of his players' abilities. I opted for a sweeper keeper on defend duty. In front of him, we have a back four made of two wingbacks on support and two central defenders on defend. The wingbacks are expected to go up the pitch in attack as the ball is progressed. The defensive midfielder is a halfback. Of course, a defensive midfielder role or an anchor can be used here. I chose a halfback as I wanted to use a more mobile role than the anchor one, but still a defensive one, as when the team is in possession, this player becomes a third center back. A box-to-box midfielder and a central midfielder on support make up the rest of the midfield. The central one is asked to get further forward, run from position and move into channels. As the base role comes without any player instructions, it's important to apply what you think helps. In some setups, this role is supposed to be taken over by Scott McTominay, who is the heartbeat of Napoli's setup sometimes. And the front three are two inside forwards, one on support and one on attack, and a target forward on attack. The wingers are very important to the setup as they are brought into play by Lukaku, the target forward, and are the main threats for the opposition's goal. I chose positivist mentality. In possession, fairly wide attacking width, play out of defense and focus play down the middle, slightly shorter passing directness and a slightly higher tempo, and play for set pieces. In transition, I let the game decide when to counter press and when not to, counter and distribute the ball to the central defenders through short kicks. And out of possession, a mid-block and a standard defensive line. Antonio Conte's teams usually sit deeper and allow the opposition's teams to start that build-up, meeting them at the halfway line. Doing this restricts the space the opposition has moving forward and reduces the risk of a counter-attack being played against. And trigger press more often. Using this tactic, I managed to win the league title in my Building a Nation save in Romania with FCSB. We also managed to win the Romanian Cup and the Romanian Super Cup. And in Europe, we qualified through from the league phase and were knocked out by Atalanta in the second knockout round playoff. Antonio Conte might come across as a very intense manager, but his achievements, especially as a manager, speak for themselves. He managed some clubs where it didn't work out, but in the end, his legacy is there and we should all take advantage of him being an active manager and enjoy the teams he builds for success.